Well, hey there everybody, welcome back to Richard's Toy Room and another model kit review and build. This one's got an interesting story. This, if I'm not mistaken, from my memory, is one of the first kits, or I should say the first kit, that I'm going to build for the second time. Now, I built a different release of this, obviously. It wasn't a Coca-Cola promoted one. Of just this 23T delivery, and I built it back in the 80s, and I painted it blue, and it came out pretty good. It was actually kind of a fun kit to build, if I remember right. And so when these went on clearance, I thought, well, what the hell, first of all, it's a model kit for a good price, and secondly, I mean, I can do it different. It's not like I'm going to make a fleet of the same car. So I think I'll probably do this up as the Coca-Cola. I'm just not sure what color I'm going to paint it. I don't know if I'm going to do it red or if I'll just go my own way with it. But they do give you a whole bunch of Coca-Cola decals, so it almost seems like a shame not to use them. Plus, like I said, I already built one just as a plain old delivery truck, so we'll fancy this one up maybe a little more. Anyhow, I'm sure it's completely the same as the first one I built. I mean, not that I could remember every single part, 30, 40 years later, but take a look at the box here. They do show another version, a white one down here, then they show the decal sheet. And then on the other side, they show you just a few little options and a little Coca-Cola ad there. The one thing that I noticed is they do not give you, which would have been a really nice touch, I don't know why they didn't, is like a couple of crates of Coca-Cola bottles to put, like with it or like on the seat. I mean, because the doors don't open in the cargo area, so there's no way to put them in there and actually really get a good look at them other than peeking in through the window or whatever, or down through the cab. But I mean, you could always put one on the floor next to the driver or on the seat next to the driver. That would have been a nice touch, but hey, what it is what it is. So let's take a look at all the stuff in the kit. First up is the instruction sheet. It's just a simply 4-page sheet. And we'll zoom in a little bit here so you can get a better look. It's actually a pretty simple kit. You got your flathead, typical old Model T Ford engine. You got your little wagon wheels with the skinny little tires, rubber tires. And then you build the frame. And that's the only thing you kind of really got to watch for is this kit has a lot of separate parts. So you got to make sure that you get them straight, otherwise you get something going wonky. So you got to build your frame and all that stuff there, and then the same thing. You got like your separate fenders and your separate cab sides and all that stuff, and then you slap it all together. That's pretty much it. One nice feature that I do appreciate is that they give you a one-piece hood for the engine. I hate the ones where you have to glue them together in the middle. It seems to always be, or even worse, the ones where you have to put the two sides on with the top. That one's like, always get those messed up. So anyway, that's the instruction sheet. Here's the decal sheet. Get a lot of Coca-Cola decals on there, and pretty much that's it. I mean, there's like no license plates or anything like that. It's just like full of Coca-Cola. So I'm obviously not going to use them all, so you have plenty of extra decals to put in a diorama or on other vehicles or whatever your heart desires. Now, what I thought was kind of neat when I was looking at the box cover here, if you notice, it's sitting in front of a drugstore on a corner. And I thought, That's pretty neat. I said, I like how that was designed with that background. What little did I know, they give you that background in the package. I had no idea this was in here. Now, the only thing I don't like about it is black and white. I mean, so it doesn't look real. And even though it's a photograph, I wish they would have colorized it like they did on the box. That would have been perfect. I mean, why would you put a car in front of a black and white background? It just doesn't make sense to me. But, I mean, you know, it is what it is. They give you a Coke button for something and some, I guess this is just pieces to keep it all together and make it work. But, yeah, that's like the base. That's a nice idea. I don't know. I might use it. I'm not sure. So let's get all the red parts out. Yes, this is molded in red. A couple of parts did fall off the tree, but no big deal. It's like a brace here for the frame. And here's the hood. One-piece hood. I wouldn't say that this would be a color plastic red that I would, you know, like just clear coat over or anything. I don't think it's that nice of a red. But I get their idea. I know why they would do that. Here's your steering wheel, and I think that's a dashboard. And basically, here's your engine parts and some suspension. You've got basically your entire body here. And the rest of your body parts with your roof and your fenders, and I think that's the seat, maybe the floor, I'm not sure 100%. And finally you got this, I don't know why they give you a convertible top in here. That's odd, because I don't think that's an option. It does look like I also give you a spare tire. Interesting. Anyway, there's your wagon wheels. This must be a sprue from another kit that's used for Model T that just crossed over. Then you got your clear glass parts. A little hard to see in the bag, but I apologize. I don't want to take them out and lose or scratch them. But you got 4 oval windows and then your front windshield. The 2 metal axles. And finally, your rubber tires, your little skinny wagon wheel tires. That's everything that's in the kit. No chrome. Let's get to work, and I'm sure we'll probably do an update. And between now and then, we'll decide how we want to do it and what we want it to look like. So stay tuned. Okay, so here's a quick update on this 1923 Model T delivery, the Coca-Cola version. As you can see, of course you already knew this because I put it in the screenshot, but I decided to go with yellow and red on this. I thought that would be a little different. Anyway, that's not the point I'm going after here. The kit's actually very simple and not a whole lot of pieces, but it's kind of complicated in a way because you have to build like the frame and make sure it stays straight. But the problem with this particular kit here, and I don't know if this happened across the board or if it just happened to be the one I got, but a lot of these parts were warped. Like the bottom part here, this was tweaked, like, I mean, it was like, and these parts were kind of tweaked on this frame here, so I got it as straight as I could. I mean, you can see it actually, with the wheels and everything on it, it sits pretty good. They're supposed to turn. There they go. But it was kind of a pain in the butt because of that, those problems. That's why I've actually deviated quite a bit from the instructions in how to put this together, because I mean, I could have showed you, but for example, this front part here is mounted to the this chassis part here, and before I glued the roof on, when you looked at it straight on, this thing was literally like cocked. I mean, by like a quarter of an inch almost, I think, if I remember right, because of the tweaking of this bottom part. I mean, I tried straightening it back out, but I just couldn't. So what I actually, one of the last things they have you do is put the roof and the rear door in, but there was no way I could get that to fit right, building it in that manner. What I had to do, if you run across it, what I would recommend is building it this way. What I did was I put the sides on to the bottom here and the back on so that I could square it up. And then the front part I put on, but I let it dry, I used the cement, and I let it completely dry before I tried putting it together. So then what I could do was, since this part on the bottom was tweaked, when I went to go put the roof on, and I have a little brace in there, I don't know if you can see it or not, just to keep the sides up against the edge of the roof so it sits in there properly. But I put the roof on, and then I was able to tweak this, because there's a groove up here that this front windshield panel fits in. And since this was already glued down here, it's like a strong bond. It's like almost like part of that chassis. So I was able to tweak it back into shape and shove it up underneath the roof here, and then rubber band it on both ends to keep it down in place while the cement dries. So I'll probably leave this. I mean, I'm sure it'd probably be good. It's probably good now, but I just don't trust it that much, so I'm going to leave it till tomorrow before I even touch it. And then, of course, this will go on, if you can see what I'm doing. This will go on here. Of course, it's not going to fit now with the rubber bands and everything. But the next, I mean, they actually had you put in the fenders on before you do all this other stuff, and there was like absolutely no way this thing would be even remotely straight if I did it by the book. So that's where we are at this point. So tomorrow I will attempt to get those fenders on. I mean, like I said, there's not that much more to it. There's only like a handful of parts left that go on it, and the decals. I mean, it'll look like a clown car if I wasn't making it a Coca-Cola. I would never choose this paint scheme. So anyway, just wanted to give you the quick update on that, and stay tuned. Okay, so let's get this final report on this 1923 Ford Model T delivery, Coca-Cola edition, out of the way. Now, as far as issues with this kit, now this is actually a pretty simple kit. So issues shouldn't have been a problem, really. But what the problem with this kit ended up being was that a lot of the parts were warped. And I could not get them straight, flat, whatever you want to call it, back to their position they should have been, which caused many, many issues putting the body parts to the floorboard piece and then getting the roof attached. I literally had to take this roof off 3 times, and the third time I almost broke the windshield part in half, but luckily it didn't. In fact, I think the only thing that kept it from totally snapping in half was the coat of paint on it. So I glued those little cracks and I managed to get it all back together, but it's still not perfect, and it was pretty disappointing that this kit had such warped pieces in it, because it actually had really no problems other than that. And everything went together pretty well. I mean, it is an older kit, that's quite obvious, and I did build this back in the 80s, possibly even the 70s, I'm not sure. I want to say the really early 80s, but it was the Budweiser, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was a Budweiser edition back then, and that was the one that I built, although I didn't use the Budweiser decals. And if I didn't have it packed in a box right now, because I don't have anywhere really to display all my completed models at this point, I would bring it out and show you it side by side with this one. Now this one came with this backdrop kit that you see here, which I don't like. I put it together just to see if it would look good, but I hate it. And I'm going to, it's only together with tape, so I'm going to take it apart and flatten it out, and I'm just going to put it back in the box and where I put the parts that get saved, because it's just not, it's not for me. I don't care for it. So anyway, you can see the color scheme that I ended up doing, and I chose to, I didn't go crazy with the decals. I mean, they give you a lot of decals, and you could have like went gaudy with this thing. Not that red and yellow isn't gaudy enough. Anyhow, I thought it turned out pretty good overall, even with all the problems I had with the warped parts. But I'm sure that was just my kit. I can't imagine that everyone that came out of the factory on this batch was warped, although I wouldn't be surprised if quite a few were. Anyhow, so just beware of that. This is the first kit that I've ever had that I can remember that had such badly warped parts. I mean, I have had some before, I remember, that did have some warped parts, but this one was a little troublesome. It was pretty much really key parts that caused a lot of problems putting things together. I'll give you a little close-up on some of this because I don't think I showed you any of that earlier in the video. And then we'll plop it on the turntable and we'll be done with it. So here's what it looks like underneath. Not much to really see there, just exhaust and whatever. And the wheels do roll. It's a double metal axle. And the hood does come off. So you can see the engine in there. Oh, one thing I did have to do, the radiator hose, and I don't know if that's because of a problem with the warpage of the kit or if it just wasn't designed right, but it wouldn't reach up to this radiator tank here. And so I had to take a little piece of sprue and make the hose longer so that it would reach from the engine to the radiator tank. So, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's just for quick looks. Make sure that's down right. Yes, okay. So let's get this camera re-angled and give you that final view of this. And thanks for watching.